Friends, if you're looking for real old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today.
We're gonna get a little bit crazy, wild and maybe even vulgar, if you please. It's after dark and we're gonna light it up. Got some fun in store for you, no tease. It's time for Midnight Sesh After Dark. A little naughty, will hopefully make you chuckle, but we ain't trying to hurt nobody, so get ready quick on the double, cause it's time for Midnight Sesh After Dark.
Favorite show on the interwebs. That's what I'm told anyway. Greetings, everybody. Welcome. We have with us Scribelight. How you doing, Scribbles?
Doing all right, Tom. Thanks for having me on, and good evening, everybody.
Getting good grades. That's future so bright. You got to wear shades.
Something like that, if I were still in school, and I'm not, thank God.
Well, every day must be like school for you since you do all those TED Talks.
Oh, yeah. That's one way of putting it. It's worst education I ever bought.
Wow. We also have with us, speaking of buying things, The Price of Reason. How you doing?
Hey.
Good. How are you, Tom?
Doing all right. Glad to be here. We're live again. Hopefully you're having a great day.
I am. I was telling you that I have a new pair of headphones, and hopefully these will be comfortable.
Yeah, that comfort is always important. As well as, of course, being able to hear. So, yes. But welcome, everybody in the chat. I see we got D-Bud swinging a wrench. How you doing, D-Bud? We got Beep, Bop, Boop, Batman. We got Red Syrup out. Scribes in the chat as well as on the panel. We got Lombardi here. We got Shotgun Fringe. We got Darth Scipio here. Putin's Cat. George Kaplan 11. So there's 11 of them. So many more. Hit that like button. Let everybody know we're live. Hamdinger's here. FKC or FKHC 2005 is here as well. So many regulars. So many new faces. Glad to see it. We're also live on X. So am I a robot?
They're saying you are. I hear you fine.
You guys hear me fine, but
No. I'll tell you, when the thing started, you made like you sounded a bit robot-y really in the first few seconds.
Am I still?
It wasn't robot. There was suddenly a lot of reverb on your voice when you were.
Yeah, I did the reverb on purpose.
Oh, when you did the kind of announcer thing, it had a little bit of reboot. Maybe
They're
that's
saying it's. Let me refresh real quick here.
But it wasn't really a robot. It was more of a reverb.
Yeah, but well, he sounds fine to me on my end, but I don't know what's
Well,
going
now they're
on.
saying it was YouTube price, so maybe it's just everybody's a robot. Well, if everybody's a robot, then it's either StreamYards or YouTube.
Yeah, one of the two.
Because y'all sound fine to me.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh no. Okay, it's all good now.
Still
Now they're saying
now
it's
it's
fixed.
fine.
Now
Okay.
it's fine.
Okay. Refreshing something must have
I don't know.
wiggled the cord.
I wiggled the digital cord.
That's what you did. Yeah. Do the truffle shuffle.
We're clear now. all good now. Since Batman
Okay.
Wow. So yeah.
Good. I hate when like technical difficulties happen and I
Hey,
have
we
no
got
control or
Slither and
knowledge
Peanut.
of them.
I hadn't seen Slither and Peanut in a while. How you doing? So yeah, so we got some interesting stuff to talk about today. Sure we'll get some more panelists as we keep moving along. You never know who will pop in. But yeah, first up, I mean, I guess the news that everybody's been talking about the last few days. Robert Downey Jr. is back as not Iron Man. He's gonna be
I
playing
smell
Doctor
desperation.
Doolittle. Yeah,
Yeah.
Doctor Doolittle. Yeah, there's a whole lot going into this. And we're gonna get into this whole bit of business here, but before we break it all down, what's your guys' response to the Russos and RDJ returning to the MCU? Scribe, you were already saying.
Yeah, I will. Desperation, just absolute desperation. The idea, I mean, first and foremost, the idea that you would bring in Doctor Doom. I don't know if there's going to be some kind of bait and switch with Robert Downey Jr. There's some rumors about who is really playing Doctor Doom from WWE Pro.
Yeah.
But whatever the case, even if you take away all the actor stuff, you don't just drop Doctor Doom in and then run with it in an Avengers movie. Doctor Doom, as far as I'm concerned, is a greater villain than Thanos in the Marvel universe, and you build up to him. The whole success of the original Marvel series up through Endgame was the anticipation, the building blocks, bit by bit, character by character, and you lead up to something. To drop Doom in, I mean, I assume he's going to appear or at least be suggested in the Fantastic Four movie, right? And then a year later, we're already into Doomsday. That doesn't work. And besides which, they talked about Galactus is going to show up in Fantastic Four and everything. There's no stakes. You have to start small and work your way up. So just regardless of who's playing Doom, the fact that we're getting Doom lickety split, that just boggles my mind. But more so the casting decision. It's going to be variant Tony Stark or Tony Stark from a different future or something, or his body was taken over, or why? Except to draw back the fans that have already abandoned the franchise because you guys screwed it up so often. And the idea that now they're going to get it right. Now they're suddenly going to get it right because they bring back the Russos and Robert Downey Jr. I mean, the Russos might have enough leverage to do what they need to do the way they want to do it. But Endgame wasn't that great all in all, except for a couple of set pieces. So who's writing this sucker? How well is that going to play out? I don't know. It just, when I saw
we have
Robert
at
Downey,
least one of the writers back.
Yeah.
And Script said they are a team, so he would think both of them are. They just mentioned
Okay.
the one, but yeah.
Yeah, when I saw that was Robert Downey Jr., my first thought was it just a bizarre choice to, and also, as I think somebody else said, completely steals the thunder out from under Deadpool and Wolverine's weekend by having this happen. But
kind of,
anyway.
But I don't know. I don't think it's stealing any real thought. We'll get into that though in a little bit. But Price, what was your first reaction to hearing Robert Downey Jr. is back? Even though, I mean, we've all been hearing these rumors for almost a year now, but yeah.
We have, and the thing is that I'm not surprised. For me, I think that we're all looking at it as people that actually enjoy comic books or comic book movies, but there's a lot of business behind all of this, and this is all like just a numbers game. They saw that this thing with Wolverine and Deadpool is making money. They already knew in advance that there were a lot of advance tickets sold, that finally there's seems to be like they're on track to having a real hit again. And they just said, you know, what do we got to do now to make this just people? It doesn't even matter if it's good. Then nobody cares. I don't think anybody there cares if it's good or not. It's just, how do we bring out people and make them watch this? And Robert Downey Jr. for years was just the biggest star of this franchise. So most people don't know what it means. He's Doom. He's not Doom. Is he going to come back? Is he also going to be Tony? Is there going to be a variant of Tony? Nobody even knows. And the thing is, it doesn't even matter. They brought him out. They said Downey Jr. is back. Then they brought the Russo brothers. They're like, you liked Infinity War? You liked Endgame? Even though we criticized Endgame, it made a ton of money and it was considered a crowd pleaser. They're like, you want Endgame? You want, the Russo brothers? You want Robert Downey Jr.? Here you go. And that'll be enough. That's going to make money. They're not going to lose money on this. Even with paying Robert Downey Jr. all the money that he wants, they're still going to make money.
Yeah, we'll get into the actual ins and outs of this because you're right. There's a lot of money that's being thrown around here, but I just want to kind of get your guys' initial reaction. I mean, I talked about it a little bit the other day. I said this is ultimate jangling keys. Yeah, I think like you said, Scribe, there's going to be a bait and switch here of sorts, or there's going to be yet another version or variant or variants of Tony, and we've all been hearing rumors of at least one or more other actors that might be playing Doctor Doom, and the other rumor is, he's going to be introduced either in some end credit scene or in part in Fantastic Four First Steps. So yeah, like this whole thing reeks of some sort of desperation. I've been comparing it to an ex who tries way too hard to get you back.
Well, I mean, they had preloaded Kang so much in the previous years, and then of course that all fell apart.
Well, that's just it. This is them admitting that that's a fuck.
Yeah, they didn't handle the character well, and of course Jonathan Major's personal problems obviously threw a big wrench in everything. And I made a joke on Twitter, like I think within the hour I heard about this, I thought so. Kang was built up to be the next big guy. He failed. Doom's a last minute replacement. Dr. Doom is the Kamala Harris of the MCU. That's what I kind of that was my reaction to it. And here's the thing. I got nothing against Robert Downey Jr. I actually have a personal reason to really have a lot of respect for Robert Downey Jr.
Oh yeah.
He helped out a family member of mine, and I like directly, and I can't thank him enough from afar. But the decision here just is that the like we have the inside baseball, like Price was saying. The Joe average moviegoer doesn't know about all this or care about the ins and outs of the MCU or what the studio was planning and what they failed at. But to take an entire, I have to assume they spent years prior to Jonathan Majors, flaming out, planning out and spending all this money and pre-production, everything on all this Kang stuff. And then within the last 2 years, they had to retool everything at the last minute to this.
Somebody put out a tweet making the joke that they should just keep announcing Avenger movies we'll never get.
Right. And so the budget of these two films is going to be astronomical, obviously. But I'm just more curious about how much money they spent and effectively wasted, and how much they're taking from. Because we just remember, Captain America: Brave New World was operating basically without a net over and over again. It got refilmed 3 times. Even with the Russo brothers involved here, is the infrastructure of Marvel Studios up to the task of pulling off a quality film in this a relatively short amount of turnaround time, and with this production schedule, even with all this talent behind it? Can they really pull off something worthwhile? I don't know. I don't have faith in them anymore.
They don't even care, though. Is Deadpool and Wolverine such a great movie? It's fun. It's not as good as Deadpool 1 and 2.
No,
the story is weak.
Oh, I think it's better than 2.
I think that the story is overall weak, and they did so many just key jangling and things, and some parts of it I enjoyed. It was fun. It was funner than a lot of other.
The difference, though, Price, and I don't disagree with you. The difference is Deadpool is where you do that,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And they did it right. And yes, the story is like secondary. It's pretty much the whole thing is a vehicle to be able to get Wolverine and Deadpool together on screen for 2 hours.
Right.
And in that respect, it succeeded on every level, except for, like you said, is the story great? No, it's a little weak, but it's definitely a better story than a lot of the other crap we've gotten out of Marvel lately. I keep saying that a lot of people, I think, are overlooking that Disney is basically the biggest villain in the whole movie. Right?
Yeah.
Even though you have 2 main villains, but also at the same time, people are overlooking that the whole reason this entire thing is happening, and the reason that the Wasteland exists is, and this is minor spoilers at best, is just because Fox has been killed off by Disney, right? Like, that's the whole point.
The industry in that movie is a better narrative than the.
But in that
they have for the
respect,
actual
yeah,
film.
like is it going to last as long as the first and second film? Probably not, Price. I agree with you there. It's not going to.
It's more topical. It's a movie of the moment where the first Deadpool is still a good Deadpool, but when it comes to this thing with Downey Jr. and the Russo brothers, they need a few things. They need to tell investors that they're back on their game, and they need to tell the public, you like Endgame, you like Robert Downey Jr., well, here you go. And it's going to be enough to get money. I think I think that even if they spend hundreds of millions of dollars on this movie, with good marketing, with showing Robert Downey Jr. in commercials and saying Avengers and having him in it, people without knowing anything, that don't know anything, all over the world are going to go see this movie, and they'll make at least $1 billion if they do it like even just mediocre.
Yeah.
And as long as the studio stays out of their way, I mean, after Winter Soldier and Infinity War, I have a certain level of respect, and I think they've earned the credibility of the Russo brothers in how to make a good comic book Marvel movie without like weighing it down in a bunch of nonsense. So as long as the studio stays out of the way, but this is under Kevin Feige now, if I'm not mistaken. Infinity War was still when Ike Perlmutter was still in charge. Correct?
He was ousted initially. Am I still roboting? I switched over to the mic thing again.
Yeah.
No.
Everybody,
Well, you sound fine to me.
Yeah,
but
they're
that
all
doesn't seem
saying
to
we're
be-
all then okay, if we're all three roboting guys, then it's not us. Because I hear
it's
Scribe
YouTube.
and Price, it's either YouTube or StreamYard, and there's nothing I can do. I really wish there was. Maybe refresh the stream, guys. I really don't know what else to tell you. And it's aggravating. I'm sorry. Basically, like, where were we here? As far as like when Perlmutter was out the picture, he was still around up until he actually sold his stock here a couple months ago, technically, but he was ousted before Captain Marvel and Black Panther.
Well, yeah, but was Infinity War in production before Feige took over fully?
Partially, or at least it was in the plans, because you got to figure that storyline basically when they put Thanos in at the end of Avengers, they literally had no clue what the hell they were going to do with him.
Right.
And that's what James Gunn was told by Kevin Feige. So then what James Gunn had to do was sit down and map out the entire Infinity Saga.
Okay.
So basically my understanding is that James sat down and kind of pinpointed all the main events that have to happen for him to be able to do Guardians 1 and 2 and get them to Infinity War.
Yeah. I'm just wondering how much of
he actually directed the scenes with the Guardians of the Galaxy, is my understanding, in Endgame.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm more curious if in this instance, with Feige now in total control, whereas I would assume that at the time that the first Infinity War movie was being made and everything, he hadn't quite fully taken over everything. But
yeah, well, here's my also understanding is the Russos were powerful enough at that time that they nixed this idea of replacing all of the main players with younger versions, because that was the initial idea, was they were going to pluck different alternate versions of these characters from other multiverses, and they would be young new actors, so they didn't have to pay him as much.
Right. Okay.
And the Russos were like, no.
Good. All right. Yeah. Well, like I say, they've earned a little bit of my faith insofar as their abilities and their heft. I mean, they have the leverage now, and like if Feige knows what's good for him, just like with Wolverine and Deadpool, he'll just stay out of the way and not interfere. But all the same, it just seems like such a short ramp up time to bring Doctor Doom into the universe. That is, you got to have the Fantastic Four fight him first, and it just that the timeline really worries me. The speed kills as it is. Like Price says, it'll probably make $1 zillion. I have no doubt about that. But I'm just a snob, so what do I know?
I can see the marketing now. He's back. They put Robert Downey Jr., they play the Avengers music. It says Avengers Doomsday. And it's like, from the people that brought you Endgame. And that's it. That's all they have to do. That's all they have to do in the commercial. And 90% of the people that don't, and most people don't know anything. They know nothing. They'll just see the commercial and say, great, I'm going to see this movie.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of normies that are just going to be like, whatever with this. I mean, it might end up confusing them in the end. But
they don't care. Disney doesn't care if they're confused. They just need them to get into the theater and buy the ticket, and whatever they have to sell them until that moment, they will say anything.
Honestly, I'm getting Feige fatigue. I think we need to move on from Feige. I think their point between Deadpool and Fantastic Four was their point. They should have just rebooted this whole thing, found some way of scrap piling the other stuff, or like I said to Script the other morning, they should have released the first version of Captain America, African American years ago when they had it done in the first place, just like the Flash when they should have just done it initially before they threw more money at it. Because at this point, Captain African American and the Thunderbolts, I don't think is really going to matter in the grand scheme of things.
No, what they
unfortunately
should
they have to release them. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, well, I was going to say what they should have done, and this is hindsight's 2020. What they should have done after Endgame is they should have done the retro Fantastic Four, like setting it in the 60s or whatever it is, and doing a soft reboot, and then having
that's kind of what it is. But yeah,
yeah, and with the Fantastic Four, and of course them being explorers and going to different alternate dimensions and things, then you can start to introduce a new timeline or a new whatever, or they get trapped in something else, then it becomes the new, and just not ignore or say that the other thing didn't happen, just like start anew, and then not do the multiverse. I'm getting so sick. I just saw an article, I don't even know if this is indicative of anything, that John Bernthal was apparently like physically training with I suddenly forget his Thomas Jane in preparation for Born Again Daredevil. I'm like, please do not tell me we're gonna have two versions of the Punisher appearing in Daredevil Born Again. I'm getting sick of multiverse nonsense. And the Deadpool Wolverine movie, I mean, that thing was an action editorial on the entire Marvel franchise. And
that almost makes me wonder. Oh, sorry. Finish your thought.
I was just to say, if they don't take the lessons from the absolute devastating jokes and burns in that movie to heart, they haven't learned anything.
Well, I wonder if they're having to do the two Punishers not because they wanted to, but because initially when they first started shooting this, because remember they've reshot, they're reshooting Daredevil now, what, for the second or third time?
That's true. Yes.
Yeah. So I wonder if because I think Bernthal ended up turning him down at one point because he wasn't on board with what they were doing. I wonder if they drugged Thomas Jane out of the mothballs.
That would have been something.
Man. And then when they went back to do the retake, because the retake, they had a lot of the same people back from Netflix, except for some. And then, so I wonder if Bernthal was back on board since it was now officially going to be a season, 4 or whatever, technically. So I wonder if now they have to work it in that there's a multiverse.
Actually, you know what?
So weird. It would be two Punishers. That's so.
I'm
strange.
just speculating here.
No,
that's the only thing that makes fucking sense to me. Sorry.
It was just such an odd comment from Bernthal that he was like training for Born Again with Thomas Jane. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like is he just as a friend or something?
Because my understanding is he was not going to be in it.
Yeah, he had some problems with what they were going to do with the Punisher in the first iteration. I don't know that he.
See, now Nick says that there won't be two Punishers. They're just training together. They've done it before. Maybe.
Oh, okay.
But then again, with the way things are, I wouldn't be fucking surprised.
If they cast Thomas Jane as Jigsaw, I might be happy.
But wasn't there already a Jigsaw?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
No, Bullseye was cast.
Bullseye was in season 3 of Daredevil on Netflix, and he did a really good job. They did a really good job with Bullseye.
It's been so long. Unfortunately, I struggle to remember, but I remember liking him, and I liked the season, and I really was excited to see season 4. And I don't know, are they going to really continue that, or is it going to be some weird season 4 thing?
Well, we already know that they couldn't because they tried it one time and it failed so badly they had to remake the entire series again. So is the second time or third time the charm? I don't know that I'll see it because I don't, even for something that I have like fingers crossed, hope it's good kind of thing, Disney Plus is not something I want to pay for anymore. So I might end up just kind of missing it and hearing it from other people, which makes me sad, because I remember
Johnny Depp is screening it at his home.
Oh, well, good for Johnny Depp, I guess. Who's Johnny Depp going to play in them? Oh, Johnny Depp should play Doctor Doom. Let's make Johnny Depp Doctor Doom.
It was a euphemism.
Yes. Okay. It was like a script doctor fixing a fan for his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yes.
We won't get into that.
We won't get into it.
Let's see now what the rest of the story is about, because here's the bigger part of the story too, because we finally got an idea of what Robert and the Russos are going to be paid for this.
Yeah.
And man, is it a lot. The Russos, and now keep in mind, this is for both films. So this is a pair of films. So the Russos are getting $80 million a piece for the pair. So that's 20 million each per movie, basically. And Robert Downey himself is getting a cool $100 million for the two movies. So that's $50 million a piece. And I'm sure he's going to be in. He probably gets a little piece for being in Fantastic Four as well. It's already been hinted at that he'll probably be a producer and other things, so he'll probably get some back end money on this too.
Oh man, that's Waterworld money right there.
Yeah,
they are going to make. I think Disney are going to make back every penny. They just have to do the commercial that I told you, and it's all worth it for them.
Well, I think they already teased the tagline, to be honest with you, Price. I mean, I know what you're saying, and you're probably right on most of it, but I think the tagline is going to be "New mask, same task," because he's already said that.
Yeah,
and
he's there to.
And let's be real, this is gonna result in some variant multiverse thing where we're gonna end up with this version being a multiverse version of Tony with, you know, the brain swapped out like the one comic, or they're going to combine the two and you're actually going to get the Tony facing off with the Tony version of Iron Man at the same time, kind of thing. Because this version actually starts in the 60s is my understanding too. So he'll already be old or whatever by the time, or maybe that's how they'll work it out, is he'll be like a younger version of that and then older by the time we get to the now. Who knows? Fuck if I know what they're going to do. I honestly don't really give a shit. That's the other problem. This stuff has gotten so convoluted that I don't care. That I agree with you, Scribe. Like, and I've said, this is how I would reboot the entire MCU going forward. Like, I just admit defeat. Like, we're done. Like, I'd end it somehow, or like in some ultimate event, and then just move on with the starting with the Fantastic Four in the 1960s.
Yep.
Right.
Fighting Mole Man. Fighting Mole Man.
Yep.
Damn it.
And from there, you build on to things heading into like the 70s, where you would introduce like the Punisher, and you would bring Cap in, you know, as he was frozen in the 40s, and now you bring both those two into the Vietnam era.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you get out of this, you get late into the 70s is when you start introducing the mutants. Going into the 80s is when you have the mutants take over along with Spider-Man. And then, oh my God, the Fantastic Four show up because they've been in space since the 60s, you know, after their first adventure. And you have this thing that's just consistently building on the decades, and you can keep bopping back and forth and telling stories within those areas. But what you do then is just make sure that the movies that you're building on don't cross over outside of one or two meet-up movies or Avenger movies once in a while. Right. And those aren't really predicated on all the other stories, right? Yeah, the other stories are all on their own kind of thing.
The X-Men series, I mean, the one lesson they could take, and aren't going to, obviously, or maybe not, they could take from the Fox X-Men franchise, is you can do period piece comic book movies that grow over time along with the actors and along with the audience. So yeah, you could do a Fantastic Four 60s, and then Punisher. Can you imagine a Taxi Driver-esque Punisher movie set in the 70s? You know how awesome that would be? I've been dying for something like it forever. But yeah, that would be a great way to do it. And again, you wouldn't have to say, oh, we're destroying or obliterating or turning into Legends, the original Marvel run. We're just doing a new era. That's it. You don't refer back to it. You don't tear it apart like an adamantium skeleton or anything. You just move on and tell more stories. But they have to have all this interconnected because that's what worked the last time. So let's just do it into the dirt. You got to know when the trick, the one joke is done. You know, it's done. You got to stop. They don't know how to stop. They keep thinking that they can go back in time. And that's why this kind of worries me, is that they haven't learned their lesson. They need to move on, not keep looking backwards. But we got a $200 million some odd investment in just the director and the main actor. Jesus. What's the rest of the movie going to cost? And then let's not even think about, given Disney's track record or Marvel's track record the last few years, how many reshoots and how much is that going to cost?
Yeah, these movies are going to cost a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, you're already basically 180 in on the two. Mm-hmm. Right, just between these two paydays,
plus every cameo, every callback, every whatever,
every returning actor, the writers, which they're probably going to get paid a little bit more than your normal writers would over at Marvel because they're returning writers from previous, stuff.
And the effect had better be top notch. If we're talking Love and Thunder stuff here, and again they've got what 2 years, which I mean in when you're talking about a movie that's going to have how many hundreds of effect shots? You can't even imagine for something this big. In 2 years, they're going to get all that down to the level that we would expect. You know, that even today you look back at like Jurassic Park and it looks better than most Marvel movies a lot of the time.
Even if it costs them $350 million a movie, even if it cost them 400 million and they made over $1 billion, they want to show, especially investors and a lot of people like that they can kind of fudge the production budget numbers with. They want to show them that they're back in the game and they can make movies that make over $1 billion, and that their Avengers make money and the MCU is making money. And at this point, the quality assurance here is not a factor, in my opinion. It's just how do they sucker people into going to see this movie, and this is all they're looking to do now.
Oh yeah, Iger's got so much to try to prove now.
It's huge overcorrection. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, because the investors have lost faith, the public has lost faith,
and that's where I've said you're almost better off just rebooting at this point, because you're admitting it's worse than admitting defeat. It's coming off as desperation. We keep using that word because it's true. To me, it's that, and I use the analogy, whatever, that it's this X that just does everything they can to try and win you back. And the more they do, the more obnoxious it comes off in a way.
Can you imagine if they took that just with the directors and Robert Downey Jr., so $180 million, so just call it that. Imagine how many smaller, lower stakes superhero movies you could make. How much did the first Iron Man cost I didn't realize inflation and everything, but it wasn't that much, was it? It's like, what, $40 million or something? Just imagine what kind of new universe or new architecture you could build with $180 million on multiple films instead of dumping it into this one gamble to try to make everybody love you again. It's just, I don't know. Yeah. It's like trying to win back a girlfriend who's fallen out of love with you by buying her a diamond ring she's just going to take and walk away with.
Yeah, exactly. Same. Either way, however you want to. It's very similar to what I'm trying to say with my analogy, basically, right? But and you're right. Like unless these movies are as big as Infinity War and Endgame, I don't see how they profit. They can't.
In the long run, no. I mean, like Price says, they'll probably make a lot of money. But when you talk about in the aggregate of all of Marvel Studios' other projects and everything, they're already at a deficit in a lot of ways for the last few films. So this thing would have to make the movie whole. Sure, the one movie by itself will probably make back its money plus. I have no doubt about that. But when you talk about the deficit they built up with the other films in the franchise for the last 5 years, they're still going to be underwater, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, the thing is that they say that you're in the industry, they say something like, well, you're only as good as your last project or your last two projects. So they'll have a few that they can say that made over $1 billion. They're still on top of their game. That's all that's important here, in my opinion. Yes, they're desperate. They're desperate. I agree with you. But there's also like a pinpointed business reason to do all of this, and that's why they're doing it. It doesn't matter
because
to
they
them.
looked at their returns, and like Scribe was saying, for the last couple of years here, they've been losing money. Like, exactly. Like, it's not so much that they've been just barely squeaking by. No, they've been losing money, right? And Marvel, this is the first time in history since Disney even especially has been involved with Marvel that they have started losing money. And for them, that's like, well, where's the money going? Well, then they got to overcorrect now. And I agree with everything you guys are saying. It's them trying to get both the audience and the shareholders back on their side, and trying to boast this whole idea that we're going this direction, and these next two Avenger films are going to be. Does anybody really think they're going to be as good as as good as Infinity War? I highly doubt it, because guess what? You had 10 years building up to Infinity War.
Yeah,
we're literally watching the Kang Dynasty deteriorate in front of us into nothingness, and now they're going to have what? One movie that basically leads up to this, maybe two or three if they're lucky. If they got maybe another Spider-Man movie that'll bop out in between there if they're lucky. I don't know what else is planned, because their other two movies are movies that are way before, and I doubt are going to tie all that much into them.
Also, there could be a chain reaction. There's going to be Avengers movies. Robert Downey Jr. is in them. Now they're cooking stuff that's kind of leading into those movies. They'll work on the marketing and that of, you have to watch this in order to understand
the
what's
end credit scene
later.
Crap. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work on us. We're too smart for it, but it'll work on a lot of people, and that's what they need. We're not their target audience anymore. They don't think that you and I or Scribe are going to be fooled. I think that they're looking to just for the 90% of the people that just don't know anything.
Well, and that will lead us into our next story, actually. But I want to grab these super chats first, since you guys have been waiting patiently. Like Goddess of Whim, who sends in not just, I think she sent in 2. Yes, she did. First one for $5. Thank you so much, Goddess of Whim. Says, I went to see Deadpool and Wolverine and made sure I'd be home in time for the show. Let's talk spoilers. Oh, well, hopefully you enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And you also sent in a $10 super chat to say, I'm worried Doom and also Reed are going to get owned by Sue Storm or whatever MCU bimbo. Well, she is a bit bossy in the leaked teaser I saw, but yeah, Doom and Reed are the smartest men in Marvel Universe, and they're gonna be demoralized and emasculated. Yeah, at least it does seem like Reed's probably gonna take the back seat a bit from what it's.
Well, Pedro Pascal will be fine to do that. He's a feminist, you know.
Yeah, he don't care.
Yeah, he don't care.
But yeah, we're gonna talk about Deadpool and Wolverine in just a couple minutes here. Actually, that leads into our second story. 32 flavors and Nick Weiser. Not on the panel, but sends in a $5 super chat, showing some love. Says Side Scrollers had the same problem 6 hours ago with StreamYard. Also, hail everyone from the roads of Chirac. He's in Chicago, obviously. Have a great show. Yeah, he's doing something in Chicago. I don't know if you're going. Are you going to see a concert, or what are you doing there, Nick? You didn't let us know for sure. You just said a show. You didn't say what kind of show.
He's installing a fan.
He's installing a fan at a strip club? Is that what he's doing? I don't know.
Yeah, that's our new euphemism. Yeah, okay, I got it. Yeah,
that's this week's euphemism? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Patrick Robinson sends in $9.99, says, besides all the shows, why has Tick not gotten a film adaptation? That's a good question. Can't imagine it's hard to make a movie for him. Now seems like the perfect time. Well, there was that Amazon live action series, but I don't think it did so well. But that was early days of Amazon Prime. I think if it would come out now, I think it'd be a bit different.
I think it'd be a bit tough, because I think it, especially right after Deadpool, with all like the inside jokes and satire and everything,
I think it fit in though.
Well, if it's,
my point was, I think the show has kind of grown in popularity, but the problem was it came out so early in Amazon Prime days. It was at that point nobody watched, nobody even knew that they could watch stuff on Amazon Prime. That's my point.
Yeah.
Like now, if they'd bring it out, it might maybe even a couple years ago, maybe even it might have been a different story. I think the next iteration will be a movie, to be honest with you. If we don't get some animated series between now and then, that's a plausibility. But at this point, I think the Tick is due for a movie. And I think after things like Deadpool and the success that Deadpool has, I think you got a good point there that they might be looking into it at some point. Now, I have no knowledge of that or anything like that, but I mean, come on. I mean, look at just the success that Deadpool's having. And you're right, Scribe. I mean, the Tick is right in the same kind of vein as that. And you can even do that PG-13 anyway. But Deadpool, speaking of, has had a hell of a weekend and a record Monday. It makes R-rated history and has now become the 6th biggest opening of all time. Now, I know normally you'd be like, well, 6, big deal. Well, it is a big deal because it's R-rated.
It's R-rated. Probably all the kids are going to see this. I don't think that this R-rated hasn't stopped anybody from watching this.
Not really. No. And the thing is also, outside of the U.S., and this is my understanding, in most places it's getting like a 15 rating or the equivalent of. So it's closer to what we would have for a PG-13 rating, and I think that's helping some of its case because it's doing
it's already almost everywhere. 500 million worldwide.
They're saying it'll probably pass 500 next day or so here, and it'll possibly even hit 1 billion by the end of this weekend.
You know, I actually think because of the tempo of the film and the characters and everything, as violent as it is so cartoonish that it almost, in some places, I know this is a weird kind of comparison, it kind of reminded me of Army of Darkness. Because Army of Darkness has a lot of violence and blood and stuff, but it's so ridiculously goofy and wacky that even though that movie was rated R at the time, it's just a PG-13, even if you have a fountain of blood coming out of the ground. So yeah, this just felt like silly rather than something that you needed to be like scared of for children. But I can understand people not wanting to take little kids to it or something.
Yeah, I'm sure some people will have some reservations, and rightfully so. I mean, I've seen some, it's like, can you even take them seriously, whether or not they're, because they're like, I can't believe this movie is this blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, yeah, the first 2 are rated R. What would make you think this one wouldn't be?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that Disney could let up. I mean, they made plenty of jokes about Disney sort of let them get away with it. Like this is Marvel Studios' first R-rated film, I think.
They were desperate and had no more. No,
I mean, the
choice.
Disney Direct Marvel Studios, not like Fox.
Technically,
Marvel.
yeah, it's like because the Marvel banner has actually existed. And I didn't even realize this because I just watched the first 3 X-Men movies again.
Mhm.
I didn't even know it, but I think I think it was either Spider-Man or X-Men 2 that actually had the first Marvel Studios flipping banner on it.
Okay.
So technically, all those movies have still technically been produced by Marvel Studios, but like
I guess Blade is technically the
Blade.
first
So that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
Blade
yeah.
would technically be the first one.
That's true.
And
Yeah,
you
that's
could
true.
even
But I
go
mean,
back to
yeah.
Punisher, but that was technically before.
Well,
Marvel
yeah,
Studios
I'm talking
existed.
about under direct
Kevin
Disney,
Feige regime ish.
Yeah, under direct Disney regime or oversight, this is the first R-rated
You're
Marvel
right.
film. I
Now this would
believe.
also
Yes.
be the first Marvel movie or first movie that because they don't have any other logo in front of this but the Marvel logo for my memory.
Right. Yes.
So this does not carry the Disney logo like a lot of the other Marvel films have. It also would be technically Disney's first R-rated movie that they've released since they got rid of Miramax, and if you don't count Miramax, it'd be their first R-rated movie they released since Touchstone did
Touchstone, yeah.
Pretty Woman back in 1990.
Wow,
Mhm.
Touchstone.
Yeah, those are the days.
They had a cool logo, Touchstone. I like that little.
Or
lightning.
maybe it's their most successful since then. That's what it was. Maybe I read, but because Touchstone did do a few of the other. That's right, they did do like the Bruckheimer films and such. Then, so it's been since that era, since they've technically released an R-rated movie that wasn't a Miramax film.
Yeah, I saw this on Friday last week, and I came out of the theater and I thought this was a series of Post-it notes with "Wouldn't it be cool if," and then this happened, all put up on a wall and just kind of put into a particular order. We were talking before the stream about this, and the movie doesn't have a very strong story. It's not about the story. It's an editorial on the Marvel universe and a love letter, so to speak, to the X-Men franchise and the death of Fox Studios for all intents and purposes. And so many digs on Disney and Fox and other places. And also just like a clearinghouse for things that people wanted to see that never got a chance to. Like, spoiler alert, guys. Sorry, spoiler alert. The return of Blade or seeing Gambit. Like, and especially, I especially appreciate the fact that they went to no end to make sure that everybody's costumes were effectively comic book accurate, even though they looked ridiculous in some places.
Yeah.
I was like, I at least admire the effort. Like, yeah, okay.
Well, and that's how some of these
Gambit's
things
trench
work,
coat
is because
Gambit's,
it's Deadpool in the Deadpool universe.
Yeah, but here's the thing: that's what people want to see, and it just makes more of a joke out of the fact that they've worked so hard. Marvel not as bad as Fox to avoid just making the characters look like they do in the comic books, even if it does look ridiculous. You can make it look functional, and they finally showed that with Wolverine's outfit. But yeah, it was all right though. It was fun, but you could see that it's just the court jester. It's not a Marvel movie. It's not part of the whole integrated stuff. They had to do that, of course, the TVA and all this other nonsense.
But even that was so minimal. Like, even as much as I bitched about it to where,
yeah,
I mean, you get enough exposition dumps.
It's not important enough, but you don't have to watch the Loki series or anything to be able to understand this stuff. They make it fairly. There's enough sort of flat exposition, but nobody's looking at this for great cinema or high top storytelling.
All the jokes at the expense of Disney. If you don't know what's going on, if you haven't watched these other shows, I think the jokes wouldn't have hit as hard.
Well, and I think the inside baseball is more so like things like Gambit.
Yeah.
Right. Like I was comparing that to the Nicolas Cage cameo in the Flash as Superman. It's like, if you don't know that inside baseball, that goes completely over your head.
Well, I really feel like after coming out of this movie, I caught, as far as I can tell, all the inside baseball jokes, all the studio stuff, all the references to the other films, the Fox franchise, everything else. This movie was made for people like us after a fashion, which is really weird to say because like Marvel hates us. And I mean us in the royal sense.
Well,
of like
and
the
that's because this
everything.
is more of a Ryan Reynolds production. It was greenlit under the Chapek regime, and I'm sure all the stipulations they had in place, they made sure they had those stipulations in the contract, so Bob couldn't get out of it.
Yes.
in case they knew something like that were to happen. Because I mean, this thing was dead in the water for years. And it just kind of it was a lot like Spider-Man No Way Home. Even though we were going to get a Spider-Man 3, I've said this before, I'm sure all y'all know this, it was a completely different Spider-Man 3 than what we got, because when they heard that Michael Keaton was coming back for The Flash, they quickly signed on Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and everything changed, and it became Spider-Man No Way Home.
Right.
And at that moment, that got rushed. And this got rushed too. If it wasn't for the writer's strike, this movie probably would have came out last year. But go ahead.
I was going to say, well, yeah, and the fact that there is all these layers of humor and understanding about the franchise, you can watch it and still get entertainment out of it, even if you don't get every joke, because there's plenty of stuff there for you for whatever level of audience member that you are. It's actually kind of brilliant, and you're probably never going to see something like that again, where Reynolds and them just had free reign to just go hog wild on every reference and joke, no matter how obscure or abstract it was to the franchise and the history of X-Men and otherwise in Fox and Marvel. That, I mean, that's the one brilliant move of the entire movie, as far as I'm concerned. The plot, not so much. The different cameos are really kind of cool, but it will sit in time as an editorial on an entire era of filmmaking across two different studios.
Yeah. And I called it basically it was like if Trey and Matt Parker of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone of South Park had made a Marvel movie. Yeah, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
And I think it always kind of will be this movie that kind of sits in that area where the farther we get away from it, yeah, the Wolverine and Deadpool aspect might play on for a while. Some of the Marvel stuff will play on for a while because you can actually go back and revisit the films. But a lot of the meta humor, not the meta MCU humor, but the meta humor, the Disney, Fox humor, the cracks at Kevin Feige. I think a lot of that kind of stuff, the divorce joke, even some of that stuff.
I was shocked by that one. Of everything else in that movie, I was like, damn, that's timely and sounds kind of owie.
That's what I mean. And that's why I compare it to South Park, because I agree with you guys, both of you, in a sense, that, especially with Price, that it is going to have a harder time in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now being
who knows
as rewatchable or as enjoyable.
If tomorrow you have a different president of Marvel, then the whole joke becomes obsolete.
It just has to make money now. It just has to make money now.
But that's exactly what's happening with RDJ and all that other stuff. They just have to make, that's their policy. They just have to make money now. And this thing, they're not going to learn the right lesson from it. First of all, they're going to, instead of admitting that it was probably Chapek's reign that greenlit this thing, they'll all, fix their tie and say how great they are, and they didn't mind poking fun at themselves, and this is such a great movie. They'll all take the credit for making this, including Feige. And now next, they're just going to move on to those other movies and just say, hey, look, we're making money.
No, the wrong lesson to learn from this movie is that every Marvel character from here on out has to make some kind of crazy self-referential stuff or sly comment that's outside
Sadly,
the actual character.
I hope not, but
yeah, well, I don't know what else. That's my fear. My fear is that they won't look at this as, oh, those characters are playing the characters as they would appear in the comic books. They're going to say, oh, that kind of humor is what's going to sell the next movie. So we have to make it more like Guardians of the Galaxy or Deadpool.
I hope you're wrong in that sense, because they got that after Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Like that's what kind of got us to that phase of, well, every Marvel movie now has to be quippy and have that kind of stuff. Hopefully they don't see that part. Hopefully what they see is, we already know part of it, they're learning the wrong lesson, but here's part of it where I think they're going to, hopefully, fingers crossed, considering it's still early on in this, and the success has probably even taken them by storm, is that they learn that, A, if you put the heroes we want to fucking see in a movie, we will go see it. Right? And this is where, like, Mr. H and I had a bet. I bet him this was going to be the biggest movie of the year, and I think I made a pretty good bet. And the reason I said that, and I think I was confident in that, was because not just because it was Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds, which in and of itself is enough to bring in what, $600, $700, or $800 million easy at the box office. Just slap Deadpool out there, no matter what he's doing. The fact that you added Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, like you said, in a comic accurate costume, doing Wolverine stuff. That's the one thing I've heard from all kinds of fans, is that we finally got to see Wolverine for the first time on screen.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like Mr. H would point out, well, Logan this and Logan that. It's like, Logan, you got to forget Logan. Logan's its own thing.
Yeah.
Right? Logan is kind of like a Western set in the X-Men universe and an offshoot of a, you know, like, you know, this is proper Wolverine that we have wanted since the 2000 X-Men movie.
Yep.
Right? It is him getting in there, being Wolverine, R-rated, unadulterated, in the costume, schnickety-schnickety-schnai, fucking cutting people down. He's the only guy who's ever been able to shut Deadpool up. You know, like, they have a history. We've been wanting to see this. This is the first time in I don't know how many years where I'm sitting here going, I'm seeing my normie friends talk about it. So that's my other key into this, that, okay, this is going to be big. Because they don't give a shit about the other MCU stuff. They just see Deadpool and Wolverine. That's all they want. Right?
I honestly,
it's the simplicity of that.
I like that when they had that brief moment where he comes out in the old brown and yellow John Byrne outfit. I actually appreciated that better than I did the yellow and the blue personally. But you know, I'll take what I can get. But yeah, this is a crowd pleaser for everybody who's been a fan of any of these movies, and they benefit both from the the MCU stuff and the Fox stuff as a crossover a little bit. Like I say, I'm afraid they're going to learn the wrong lesson from it, but for the time being, I mean, I still have hope that maybe this will, and then the Russos coming in, and if they're given free rein to do what they do, maybe Marvel will learn, like, okay, you hire directors who have a vision. You don't hire directors to fill a spot, and you make good movies. But the money they're spending on these things, good God, it's still they like.
Yeah.
If there's one indicator here so far, especially with the Doomsday stuff, and Marvel's still going down the wrong path, dumping that much money on one movie, and not even before you get to the production costs, just on one actor and the directors. Oh, sorry, I understand it's two movies that they split up at the same time. That's just nuts. Anyway.
Well, and that's not counting anybody else, the budget.
Right.
You know, like, you know, you're going to have certain other actors in here that are going to cost you quite a bit of money.
Marketing.
I'm sure,
Can you mention the marketing on these things?
Business.
Holy
well, Tom
cow.
Holland's probably going to get $10 million easy to be in it.
At least.
Mark Ruffalo's probably going to get $10 to $20 million easy to be in it. Pretty much any living, you know, Hawkeye's going to get, anybody who's been in multiple films and still alive and going to be in it is going to get paid a butt ton of money. Unless they're in a minor cameo. And yeah.
Well, plus all the movies that have come out since. I mean, you're going to have Shang-Chi, you're going to have Captain Falcon, you're going to have, I mean, they're going to have to bring in just about everybody.
It'll probably
else
have to be
on top
bigger
of.
than the other ones. You're right. I agree with you
Yeah.
there. That's a good point. I mean, these
They're
are going to
not
be easy $500 million each.
At least. And in total budget for everybody else and their brother, plus marketing, it's going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts. Yeah. And they've got 2 years to do it. I mean, basically, after when does?
Well, now we're being threatened with another season of She-Hulk, so she'll probably be in it too. Sorry.
Oh Lord! So Doomsday comes out 2026. When does Secret Wars come out?
Well, my understanding is Fantastic Four comes out a week after Superman.
Yeah.
Then Doomsday, I think, is 2026, and then the next one I think is 27, or they're doing it early 26 and later 27. I can't remember which.
The timeline just seems so short for the complexity of all of this. Oh, man.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think there's many movies other than the Thunderbolts and Captain African American in between now and Fantastic
and those
Four, and then
And then Captain America 4, I don't even know what's going on with the Thunderbolts, but those had to have been written with the idea that Kang and everything was the upcoming thing. So how much retooling has had to go on with? I mean, obviously you know about Captain America 4.
Partially, but my understanding is those are basically sequels to the Captain Falcon show.
Well, and yes, that is true.
Yeah, so it's like kind of its own offshoot. And that's what I'm saying. I don't really see how those are going to lead towards or build towards anything in the Fantastic Four / Doomsday
without some
films.
really tacked on extra credit scenes or something.
That might be where some of the reshoots have come into play as well. We don't know, but
you guys are going to shove Wolverine and Deadpool into some future Avengers movie?
Oh, I know they are.
Sure.
They teased it in this movie.
Yeah, they have to. Secret Wars for sure.
What do you think that whole
yeah.
thing with Thor was about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
why do you think
coming.
he keeps asking? That's coming up. That's going to come up in the next bits. You watch. It'll end up being in either Doomsday or
Secret Wars for sure.
Secret Wars.
For sure,
Probably Secret Wars, my bad.
Yeah. Secret Wars, you'll have Deadpool being held over by
You'll find out why Thor's crying.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It'll be something stupid too. It'll be something really stupid. It'll be really stupid. Whatever it is, it's not going to be. It's going to be something like so sappy, dramatic, but also like.
Well, they've already fucked up Deadpool, because here's the other part of it. Throughout all this bullshit, what do they do in the midst of this? Like, to me, who was it? You Price or Scribe that brought up that they're kind of undermining Deadpool and Wolverine's success with the whole announcing of Tony Stark.
Oh, I mentioned it. I think
you mentioned. Okay, well, to me, it's worse that they're announced over San Diego Comic-Con that they're replacing Deadpool with his fucking black daughter.
Oh, you mean the comic book version?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I think it was a Midnight's Edge video that talked about that, and I saw that post.
Oh yeah, Andre did a great breakdown on
it. He did a great video on that. I saw an article from, I think, Bounding Into Comics before then, but. Yeah, what a stupid idea. I mean, on the back of what anybody and their brother had to know was going to be one of the biggest movies of the year with a particular character. You don't capitalize on that by putting out a new Deadpool series in the comic books itself. Instead, it's his daughter. I was like, did the script from the first iteration of the new Blade movie like make its way into the comic book situation now? It's like, well, what the hell? What do you do? Deadpool's gay daughter? Like, what?
She's gay on top of it all. Of course,
that's what I hear. Yeah, of course she is.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Kathleen Kennedy stuff.
Oh Lord!
And speaking of Blade, just as an aside, how is anyone going to accept anyone other than Wesley Snipes now after this? Do we just want a Wesley Snipes movie? Because I mean, the new Blade movie, I love the fact that they're like, there's only one Blade.
I would love to read more into it than it is. I really would.
I know.
But Kevin Feige, again, at San Diego Comic-Con said they're still working on Blade. Don't worry, it's coming.
Oh yeah.
I was one of the first ones to report because I had heard that Marasha Ali had walked.
Mm-hmm.
It was from my same source that had told me that Kang was gone, and then Pro had said the same thing about Marasha, and there was some other thing that kind of helped not confirm it, but at least add some weight to it. That his producer, or not his producer, his agent, sorry, it said something about like he has never seen this in the history of Hollywood where somebody has been assigned to something like this and they've been working on it this long, and the amount of rewrites and bullshit they've been going through for the last 2+ years now, 3 years or whatever, more than that. 2019 is when they announced it.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much money they've paid him to stay on retainer for this thing.
That's what I'm thinking, and that's where I think he's come to a point where he's no longer going to be under contract, and that's what I was hearing, is that he was able to walk away.
Yeah,
because that was getting in the way of him doing other things, I've heard.
It really reminded me of like Billy D. Williams staying on for Harvey Dent or something. He's like paid a bunch of money for a movie that never happened. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, Deadpool's daughter. They killed off Deadpool and replaced him with his daughter. I don't know. It's like the Marvel Comics obviously is being run by insane people. I don't know what else to say. It just, because what was the tradition back in the olden days? You'd have the movie adaptation comic book. I remember being excited to get the the Batman Returns. I still have my copy of Batman Returns, the comic book adaptation, in my collection from back in the day, because I was like, yeah, it's a movie, but it's also a comic book. And is Marvel Studios just not communicating with Marvel Comics? Do they not have any kind of like powwows about planning things out ahead of time for marketing purposes and trying to get people back into comic books?
And I think that's part of the thing, was like Feige is now in control of like everything, the oversee of like everything, from my understanding, where he should have certain powers like this over, the entire gamut of Marvel, or however you want to put it.
No.
But anyway, that being said, we got some super chats here, so let's see what the audience is bringing into this. We got this one already. Sorry about that. Jason Webster's in the house. How you doing, Jason? Sends in 5 Australian dollar dues and says Bob Iger tried to talk Hugh Jackman out of co-starring in Deadpool and Wolverine. Actually, that was Kevin Feige.
No, that's right.
Did that.
Yeah.
Bob Iger was just Bob Iger basically killed Deadpool 3 in its dead halt. After the second one come out, when he insisted on doing that PG-13 thing and they tried it, it didn't work. And from my understanding, and again, this is mostly rumors, but from what we had heard, is that basically they came to a stalemate on what Deadpool 3 was going to be because Bob Iger was not keen on them releasing an R-rated film under the Marvel banner. And so he walked, and the movie was dead until Hugh Jackman called him. And I think it just so happened that was at the same time that Bob Chapek was in office. And Chapek's like, yeah, do it. But Feige was warning Hugh Jackman against it, claiming that, his best performance is Logan and he should leave it that way. And I think the audience has agreed that, yeah, we love Logan, but this is the best Wolverine we've ever seen on screen yet. So I don't know. It's kind of I guess it
feel
depends
like
on
we're
who you
going to
ask.
get another one of these movies now.
I think it's a possibility.
I don't see a situation where now Iger, whatever he likes and doesn't like, when he sees over $1 billion, they're going to greenlight another Deadpool and Wolverine movie. I can't
And then
imagine that they
Jason
wouldn't.
Webster. And I mean, maybe Bob Iger did as well, but I didn't hear about that. But Jason Webster sends in another 5 to say, in fact, both Iger and Feige, as we've just pointed out, tried to stop Jackman from appearing in Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah. And then he says, keep in mind, though, RDJ will be Doom. The Avengers will be Shang-Chi, Mackie Captain America, Lady Thor, She-Hulk, Moon Knight, and Miss Marvel. Yeah, you're not wrong.
What about Captain Marvel? What about
Captain Marvel and
Photon?
Kamala Khan Marvel as well. Don't forget the
I don't
Yeah.
think we're ever going to see Captain Marvel again.
Maybe not.
If they park enough money in front of Brie Larson, she might make a cameo. I could
Do they
see
want me to? I don't know.
I don't know. They really should. I don't know about a Deadpool and Wolverine sequel or something, but with the amount of love that came out for Jackman in this role, I could see a standalone Wolverine movie.
Oh, he's
just
going to
being
be
its
in
own
Secret
thing.
Wars and stuff.
Oh
I
no,
guarantee it.
I'm talking about just like a standalone Wolverine movie, just like just a Wolverine.
We've had
movie.
enough of those already that I don't know about that.
Wolverine versus Hulk. Can you imagine if they
that I
actually
can
did
see.
that?
See,
If they did
that's what I
that
can
story
see.
flat, if they did it straight, like they played it straight, if they did a Wolverine versus Hulk movie and played it straight up in the Canadian Alps or whatever the hell it was, or if we just saw that movie with the John Byrne version, just whatever, that and a standalone, not some multiverse
I agree
thing,
with
not
you,
connected
Scribe.
otherwise. That would I think that would sell all by itself, and you
Well,
wouldn't
that's
have
what
to
I
pay
was
a lot of
trying to
money
say.
for it. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say they should do going forward is enough of this Avengers stuff, except for every once in a great fucking while. Just do team up movies, buddy movies.
Yep.
Look, for those who may not have liked it, I actually love the Hulk and Thor movie. Sorry, I did. Ragnarok. I thought it was fucking hilarious. Why? Because their chemistry was great, especially when he's just Hulk, not Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what was the anticipation of Avengers in the way that they constructed it? You had all these individual movies that built up these individual characters. And of course, like every other comic book freak on the planet, you think to yourself, wow, what would happen if these two characters actually interacted? And then you saw what happened between Captain America and Iron Man. You saw what happened between Thor and Hulk and everything.
And that's kind of what Civil War was, right? In a way.
Right. Right. And so you had all this, the Avengers, all these build-up movies. And so, yeah, now that we have these established characters, yeah, you're right. Do a team-up movie that's its own thing. It's like they go on an adventure together. It's self-contained. We already know their individual backstories. You don't have to spend a lot of time on that. And then you're one and done and just move on to the next one. And
who doesn't want to see Daredevil and Spider-Man in Hell's Kitchen?
Yeah. Or like a Punisher having to fight Bullseye or something. Who knows? Just
well, I mean, that's a typical movie, but like...
Well, still, I know, but I'm just saying, it's just like you, or Cap. Well, I don't know who I'm trying to think.
Or Punisher and Deadpool.
Sure, Punisher and Deadpool. Silver Surfer meets the Guardians of the Galaxy. Whatever. Just
well, yeah.
They don't have to be that complicated anymore. You don't have to do this multiverse stuff.
Deadpool and Spider-Man is another one I know people really want. Honestly, and this is where I agree with Price. I think there's going to be a quasi sequel to this, and I think it will be them teaming up with Spider-Man. But the problem there will be it'll probably have to be PG-13 because I don't know if Sony will even allow them to do it.
Yeah, Sony won't let them do an R with Spider-Man.
Not with Spider-Man. But that's the one time. There's one time, and it'll probably end up being Avengers now, unfortunately, but there's only one time you can get away with this, and that is you can have a running joke with Deadpool, and Script Doctor and I have both said this, is basically where you have right away where he's like, Mother, what the was that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Well,
PG-13. Thanks,
how-
Kevin.
how
Or
many-
something
how-
like that. And then
how
from
many
there on
mo-
out, it's just that's the joke.
How many movies does Marvel have left where they can feature Tom Holland with their contract with Sony? Because there was this one part in
I think they got two
Deadpool-
more.
Yeah, because in Deadpool and Wolverine, there's this one part where they show half the photo of Tony Stark with Spider-Man in Happy's office at the beginning, but they cover up the actual image of Tom Holland with the Iron Man kid mask. And
That might just because they didn't want to pay Tom Holland for
well, that's what I was
his
saying. Well,
rights.
I'm wondering if that helmet had been there covering up Tom Holland's face, if that would have, by contract, end up counting as a Spider-Man appearance in a Marvel movie, and that's why they covered it up. But either way,
Yeah. And yeah, I know, Joe, it's kind of like a South Park joke, but that's the thing. That's how you run the joke. But you can only do it one time because after that, it's not as funny, right? So the joke is at first, every time he talks, you hear, and he's the only one that hears that, right? So he's like, that beep is really getting annoying. So he comes up with, so it's the joke then would be the running gag of Deadpool trying to come up with swear words that aren't exactly swear words that he can get away with in PG-13. Right? So he'll even sit there and he'll be like, cock knocker. God, yeah, got that one in. Like shit like that. And he'll just keep trying and testing things or coming up with different ways of saying, really nasty shit, without being R-rated. It would be funny, but only for one movie because the joke is going to run out before too long.
Right.
It's kind of like Sausage Party. I said the same thing about Sausage Party. It's like Sausage Party only works as like a skit. Because once you get past the first 2 or 3 minutes of an animated cartoon in the style of like Pixar swearing, it gets old. That's not a joke anymore. It's not funny. So after like the first 10, 15 minutes of that movie, it's boring because all it is just fucking swearing and swearing and swearing and innuendo and innuendo and swearing and innuendo. And that's not a joke.
You know, what'd be funnier is if every time Spider-Man tried to say a bad word, the Sony theme music would play over his dialogue.
Well, I think the humor would be that, or, you kind of have like, of course, Spider-Man giving him crap for saying so much, right?
Language, like Captain America.
Like that kind of a thing, yeah. But like I said, Deadpool being the only one who's obviously knowing that he's in a movie, he's the only one that could talk to the audience being like, God, what do I say? Basically like Cartman in the South Park movie when he can't swear because of the chip that he has in his head. So like Deadpool has to come up with other ways of saying things. And in fact, by the end of the movie, you can even make a point that it's expanded his vocabulary. Like, do you realize how many new swear ways I learned to swear? You can come up with all kinds of words and stuff that sound like swear words too. That's the other fun part, You can have fun with it, but only for a little bit, right?
Right. Yeah, it's gonna be. You can't beat that dead horse too much.
No, and it's only something that comes up once in a while in the film because you got to have points where you're just not even thinking about it or worrying about it because it's not like Deadpool has to say fuck, 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 fuck. Right? Because that is one thing that some people have pointed out about this last one. I did notice that since they couldn't have the nudity and some of the other things they normally would, I don't know if anybody else noticed that.
Yeah.
They amped up the F words. Like
sure.
every other word that Logan and Deadpool are saying. So some people are saying it just got a little too much. And I can see that because I was even noticing after a bit. After like, especially like the scene, by the time you get to the scene where they're in the car fighting, I started noticing, I'm like, God, like literally every other word is fuck.
Didn't bother me though.
I mean, it doesn't normally bother me either, Price, but when it gets excessive,
I guess
When
It was
to the point where you're
fitting
like-
to the. It was a joke in and of itself because it's like an R-rated
point.
Disney movie. Yeah, and it was just like there's like well,
but it got a little old.
We
is
have
what I'm
unlimited.
saying. It was just like-
We have unlimited opportunities to use the F word now because we've used it once or twice and it's R. So let's just, since we can't do, like you say, can't do nudity or anything else. It's like we got carte blanche.
And I'm nitpicking. I'm literally picking, but I did
there's-
notice that it did kind of stop me for a bit going, geez.
Yeah.
There's a lot of F words in a row. They're like, so when I did see some people complaining about that, I'm like, okay, that is a legitimate complaint, right? You can go a little too far. Like somebody who's poetic with their F words is Quentin Tarantino,
Yes.
right? He knows how to place those F words, and you can have, and I think he still holds the record for the most F words in a film. But that's not the point. The point is there's a way to use them. And when he's like word, fuck, fucking word, fucking word, fuck, fucking word, Like that's literally every sentence that Deadpool and Wolverine are saying to each other back and forth. You start to notice it's like, it's just a little excessive. That's all. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not even a prude. Y'all know that. I use the F word as fluently as anyone else, but it just, it did kind of, I notice it. You know, it was kind of like, it did kind of collect, you know, it did. It's like, you know, maybe I'm using it a little too much.
Rein it in.
Presented.
Yeah. Hey, we got Dr. Coffin Nails in the chat. How you been, buddy? It says, how many people besides me thought when they found that box under Mr. Miyagi's floor, oh no, it's his porn stash? No, I didn't think that. I was thinking, oh no, a fucking mystery box.
Yeah, literally.
Literally. And the script and I got into such a debate about that. I don't know if you heard. You just wouldn't understand where I was coming from. It's like, yes, I understand the analogy of what a mystery box is, but here you actually have the literal mystery box. He's like, yeah, but I think it'll be an answer, so that doesn't make it a mystery box. And until it is, it's still a goddamn mystery box.
Yeah.
Literally. But anyway, Job Talk. I love PG movies with boobs. Well, there are a few.
The
we used to
Back
have a
in the
proper
day.
country.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, Monkey Jeebus. I love that we got to watch Clash of the Titans in school. And we had to have our parents sign a script just because that one stupid scene.
That's right.
But back then, you could get away with crap like that. Even Superman, right? Little kid, naked as a jaybird. Fucking nobody cared. They even showed that on TV.
Yeah, the restrictions were much looser back in the day.
Well, it seemed like we didn't have as many creepos running around and queerdos.
Yeah. Never been coddled so much. But
Back then, I don't even think anybody really noticed or paid attention until later on. That like, oh yeah, that kid's buck ass naked.
Yeah, today they wouldn't do that, but in those days, they're just like, it's a kid.
Yeah, they showed it on TV like it was no thing.
yep.
You're right.
Nothing. Now Clash of the Titans, I do remember they cut out, but that's because she was a grown woman, right? So like, yeah, that was the difference. Even though it wasn't sexual, and that's why it got a PG and not an R, because PG-13 didn't exist yet, is because it isn't in a sexual connotation. You could get away with that then. You could show naked people as long as they weren't having sex, basically.
Right.
And yeah, Jaws is another example. Actually, especially now in 4K, you can definitely see all her bits and pieces. You could tell she was not shy. But anyway, speaking of Disney, we got some more Disney news here. Man,
Hey.
they had a little success with Deadpool, but other than that, the rest of their week, I don't know, not so much, man. The reaction to Robert Downey Jr., I don't think is exactly what they were hoping for. And then this is interesting. A 73-year-old woman has been fired from Disney as an analyst. And it's ironic because guess how old Bob Iger is?
73.
Yeah, so as it points out here in this first line of the paragraph, the optics are pretty lousy when a company run by a 73-year-old man cans a nearly 20-year employee as she hits the age of 73 years old, and then attempts to call it a retirement on paper. Yet, according to former longtime Disney business analyst Deborah Valente, I think that would be. Yeah, sorry. That is exactly what happened to her at the Bob Iger-led Mouse House last year, which, after apparently repeated efforts to get an explanation from her managers and Disney HR, and even getting offered a job back at the company similar to the position she held from 2005 to 23, is why Valente is taking Disney to court in a 20-claim wrongful termination, discrimination, and retaliation suit. So another wrongful termination suit coming towards Disney. As you would expect from the business analyst, Valente has receipts. Of course she does.
She's an old lady. She keeps all her
She's a
coupons,
business
too.
analyst. Of course she's got
Exactly.
receipts.
She knows how to keep a record.
Not only that, she's a woman.
Oh no!
Of course they keep receipts. So they claim here, as Valente got older, she became subject to a campaign of discrimination and harassment based on her age. A 34-page document from employment law specialist Yadigar Manufar and Soleimani LLP goes on to claim, then after Valente became injured and needed to take time off, Disney expedited its plans to terminate her and used the pretext of mass layoff to terminate Valente from the company based on her age and disability. When Valente was 73 years old, Disney boldly and illegally unilaterally retired Valente from the company, and even though she had never asked to retire and never authorized anyone to retire her.
They fixed the glitch.
Yeah. Yeah, so somebody of 20 years. Wow. Like, it goes on, and I mean, you don't even really need to go on to kind of see how Disney fucked up on this. I think they're gonna.
You know what's funny though? That this is the second article today that I've seen about Disney discrimination.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because we actually have another article about Disney discrimination. Look at this.
Exactly. Like, with all of their diversity and inclusion, they sure get into a lot of trouble.
Now, it's interesting because we've covered the story before about Peter Dinklage and how he criticized Snow White and how he basically cost at least, if not more than 7 little people. We're talking probably multiple more than that, actually, jobs by crying outrage at Disney. Although I'm not 100% sure Disney was ever going to go with little people as actors in the movie. I still sustain they were always probably going to do digital versions of the 7 Dwarves because they would want to make them look like their Disney counterparts, because that's what makes Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs Disney Snow White, is the fact that they have dopey, sneezy, Doc, bashful.
Yeah, well, they could have done a mocap with Dwarf
again. Yeah, I agree, but it did appear for a while they were either mocapping with normal sized actors, or however you want to put it, or average size actors, and then we come to find out that those actually might be the bandits or whatever. So like, okay, well, what is going on here? Well, then there's reshoots. So then some people are saying, well, now are they actually putting in the dwarves, because you kind of have to put the 7 dwarves in the film because it's called Snow White and the 7 Dwarves, even though the new title, if you hadn't noticed, was not called that. It was actually just called Snow White. But also this actress here, Tara Jolie, I think if I'm saying it right, blast Disney over Jolie. Thank you. Jolie. Tara Jolie blast Disney over, I suppose, with the mount, or not the mount, but the, what do you call it, accent thing there?
Accent mark, yeah.
Yeah, Jolie. Blast Disney over Snow White and reveals Apple TV Plus originally planned to cast dwarves for Time Bandit, but changed course after Peter Dinklage criticized the show, or Snow White. So now we're learning that not only did he probably F up the Snow White business, there's the answer to the question of where we're like, well, where's all the little people in Time Bandits?
Yeah.
Because remember,
what she says in the video, which I actually watched, is that basically she auditioned. She was contacted, her representatives directly, and they actually were very interested in her for a role, which she did auditions and went through multiple stages forward with, to the point that they're asking her about flights and passports and schedules and things like that. And at the end of it, suddenly she was told that they're going in a different direction, and she just thought that they found somebody that they thought was better for the role. And after a while, she suddenly notices that, it's not that they gave another little person the role, they just took it away from little people and decided to cast average people. And she said that this all came after, it was around the time that Peter Dinklage was kind of complaining to the media, and she says that they just reversed the decision and removed all these roles for little people and just went in a whole different direction because of his complaining. And in an effort to sort of be inclusive, they ended up firing, or not giving even people that were in the running in late stages, they just took away the opportunity.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's insane.
This is political correctness eating its own tail. It's just so stupid. It's like, we don't want to offend anybody. And like, oh, well, Peter Dinklage said it was bad. So obviously Peter Dinklage is the king of the dwarves. So anything he says must go for law. Like, give me a break.
And also in this video, she also says that little people that work in the industry, they take roles like these and they're happy to do them. They're happy to do Time Bandits. They're happy to do Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And she even mentioned that they used to bring them as stand-ins, like you saw on Seinfeld on that episode. They used to bring them as stand-ins on shows for children, but now that's not politically correct. So they don't want to even want to give them that kind of work. They don't want to give them anything because it's so politically correct. But that's weird. That's kind of, how are you inclusive if you're taking away all these jobs from people?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I happen to actually, for a short time, and I'm not being punny, sorry, dated a little person, and I happen to know a couple of little people, and yeah, they all kind of said the same thing, is like, look, it's not the easiest thing in the world to find a job when you're a little person, obviously. But there is an industry when it comes to it that you can get into, whether it, you know, basically it's show business, whether it's, you know, stand-ins like you just said, or actual acting, or doing it in costume, or doing it other things that call for a person of smaller stature, right? Regardless of what it is. And this is a situation where it's already tough enough to find a job in the industry when you're somebody who's a little person. Now you got Peter Dinklage, the person who's probably arguably the most prolific, successful little person out there right now, literally kicking the ladder out from underneath him.
And you know what's interesting is that there's a Western coming up in the near future. I saw a preview for it. I forget what it was. I think it was called like The Thicket or something. And Peter Dinklage plays a some kind of like 1800s bounty hunter or something. And here's the thing. The role comes from a novel where that character is a dwarf. So
I thought he said he wasn't going to be doing that anymore.
Well, I don't know. I mean, apparently it's okay for Peter Dinklage to take on a role that is specifically and explicitly written for a character who is a little person, but everybody else kind of has to go fend for themselves. I thought that was a really interesting little turn there. But yeah, they look at this as though they're exploiting somebody's disability if they put a little person. No, this if you're going to cast somebody in a role that requires them to be of an adult mind to take direction, but of a particular stature in order to fulfill the role, this is who you hire. Just like if you're going to hire somebody to play Colossus, you hire a bodybuilder because he's a bodybuilder. You know, it's so weird and frustrating. And so, I mean, well, as an observer, it's funny to watch them just like fall all over themselves trying to be so virtuous.
Well, and he's a hypocrite as hell.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Well, yeah.
First of all, he's already said, and I don't know the exact quote, but I'm paraphrasing. He basically said that he's never going to take a role again because of his size.
Well,
he'll never take so basically him taking that role is kind of going against what he had said.
Yeah.
But not only that, it's just, he's a hypocrite because he's been in movies like Tiptoes and other things like that in the past too. And it's like I said, you know, Monkey Jeebus did point out, yes, of course, everybody knows Warwick Davis and Billy Barty and stuff like that. But as far as right now in the industry, where they're at, the stuff they've been in, prolific wise, money wise, all that kind of business, Peter Dinklage is arguably the most successful little person right now. Right now, period. If not, maybe almost for all time. We'll have to see on that part. But just because of things like Game of Thrones and some of the other stuff that he's been in, right? Warwick Davis probably a close second. Billy Barty's up there. I'm not going to deny that, but that's not even the point here. Point is, he's somebody who's literally able to, who's kind of at one point was opening doors for little people, right? Like he was being in these roles that weren't necessarily written for little people, which is great. I'm all for it too. But what he's doing now is closing those doors, or as I said, kicking the ladder out from underneath him on the way up. And that is horrible because now you have two projects that we know for a fact, at least one for sure, where they were thinking about using actors and they decided not to because of his stupid tirade.
Well, but that responsibility is on the production, not on Peter Dinklage. That they caved.
It is, but
he didn't help. He didn't help.
That's my
point.
No,
he didn't help.
Yeah,
no, he didn't help.
In the industry, and that's my whole point about how powerful he is right now. Right?
Yes. Okay, fair enough.
Like that'd be no different than if Denzel Washington or whoever else would come out and start doing, you know, like we see at a lot of the crazy leftards right now, right? Like that's why they buckle to this shit. because they can't fucking deal with getting any kind of, vitriol from, a certain demographic of people, even though it's not the majority, right? Or what was the majority saying? Well, the majority was saying, oh, well, we took one look at that Time Bandits trailer and we're like, well, where's the little people? It doesn't look anything like Time Bandits. We don't want to see it. Even though I've heard some people say the show isn't that bad, that doesn't fix the fact of the matter that nobody's going to check it out or nobody's that interested in it. And that was one of the main reasons that it didn't feel like it was being true to the original.
And it felt like it was ashamed of the original because it had little people.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm getting at, right?
Like it's very bizarre way to sort of honor this franchise that you're deciding to make a new entry into, or a remake or reboot or whatever, by saying, oh, well, that thing that people fell in love with for all their childhoods and everything else. Yeah, that's shameful and you're bad for liking it now. So we're going to do it more correctly. It's the same thing that we've seen over and over and over again. When they reboot one of these franchises, they've got to correct the ills of history for everyone else's betterment.
Yeah. Well, maybe Tara should ask Peter how that Toxic Avenger movie's going. Oh,
God.
Well, I just want to also add something that she said here, that after Peter Dinklage's comments, Disney said something like that they're in touch with the little people community after hearing his comments because they want to be sensitive. And she said, and they're talking to little people organizations or something like that. And she said that the largest organizations, that there's one called the LPA, nobody ever contacted them as far as she knows, and she knows people there. And she just said that it's as if he said it, and then they said, "Oh, we're consulting with all the right people," but nobody consulted with anybody. They just made the decision.
Some DEI group, maybe.
Yeah, they did not consult with actual people that have skin in this game. That's the thing.
I can see that. I can totally see that out of Disney, and that's par for the course for them. But yeah, it's sad to see this. It's silly, especially if people in the industry want to work, right? They're like, I want to work. I want a job.
Yeah. What about representation? What about visibility? What about seeing yourself on the screen? On and on and on. It's like, okay, so it is exclusion by what, guilt or shame? Like, I don't want to exploit those people. Like,
they keep it up, and I'll just make my little people studios, man.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm not kidding. I'm only half joking when I say that stuff.
Well,
who wouldn't want to see that?
Well, yeah, I just keep thinking. I know it was mostly a joke, but didn't Daily Wire like put out a trailer, quote unquote, for their own Snow White movie?
Yeah, they did. They're actually doing it.
Oh, they're actually doing it. I bet you dollars and donuts they're going to employ actual little people as the dwarves.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
But no, like, I'd actually love to see like actual remakes of movies with little people, and you don't even call attention to the fact that it's little. Like, they just act out the movie like normal. You have little props, little sets.
You know, one of my favorite shows was growing up. This is great.
I'm sorry.
Cut. This is a deep.
I know that's bad of me.
What'd you say?
I'm apologizing. I know that's bad of me.
No, one of my favorite shows growing up. It was a bizarre, brief little show. Was called The Wizard, and it started.
I remember that.
Yeah, I forget.
Billy Barty was in that, wasn't he?
No, it was one of the other Time Bandits. I forget his name off the top of my head. Somebody in the chat's gonna. Yeah, well, I mean, if he made a cameo or something, but the main character was not Billy Barty. But yeah,
you're right. It wasn't. It was. No, I got it here. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, I forget what his name was.
David Rappaport.
Yeah, David That's what I remember. Rappaport. I can remember the first name. Yeah. That was the first time I ever saw
Billy Barty on
a little person in a lead role, and it was just as a kid, it was just so novel. But as the show went on, and in an episode or two, they actually addressed the fact that he was a little person. It just so like made it. This was a time where you could like have something like that happen, and it wasn't that big of a deal. And you actually saw the person as a person and not as a novelty or something. And he became a character as the show went on. It's just I don't understand this kind of thinking where it's like you have to walk on eggshells around everything when the person. It's just it's a person who looks different than other people sometimes, sure. But they're still a person, and they can fulfill roles and play parts and become memorable characters. I mean, why is Time Bandits remembered for things, right? It just, or why like Tattoo from Fantasy Island or something. It's just like, anyway, I could go on.
Yeah, but anyhow, yeah, that's pretty much all I really had for today. I don't know if there was anything else you guys wanted to discuss.
No,
Yeah, I don't follow
tell my
video
credit.
game stuff all that much, so like, yeah.
Oh yeah, the whole Ubisoft stuff and all that. Yeah.
Any shows or anything you guys been watching lately?
I finally watched Shogun and I enjoyed it.
I haven't seen that yet. Been watching.
I thought people were telling me that you get disappointed at the end or something, but I didn't get disappointed. I actually really enjoyed the series.
I guess maybe because I think it deviates a little bit from its source material or something like that, but I don't know for sure.
I guess so. I mean,
I have no idea. I haven't seen it yet. So.
The real concern is that it was supposed to be a mini series, but of course it got 25 Emmy nominations and a lot of people watched it. And suddenly they're like, okay, 2 more seasons. But it's like a Game of Thrones situation because they don't have more books. There's other books that the author wrote, but they don't have specific like conclusions to this. So, and they could have taken the book that's like 1,200 pages and done it over 3 seasons if they wanted, but they didn't know. So they just kind of rushed along and did this one, which I didn't mind. But now I don't know how they're going to do 2 seasons.
Some shows just need one and done. You tell the story and you're finished.
And this was totally good. It was totally good as a one and done, in my opinion. But yeah.
Yeah, everybody has to turn it into a trilogy or a series or a shared universe or God knows what now. As far as shows, I'm actually rewatching with a friend who's never seen it, Better Call Saul. So that's reminding me what good television can look like from time to time.
Yeah, that's a good show.
I did just today, I watched the first episode of Blue-Eyed Samurai on Netflix, which is this animated, and it's been out for a while, so I'm probably not telling anybody anything they don't already know. But it's amazing animation, but it is girl boss territory, very, very girl boss territory. And I'm just kind of like, so I'm giving it a chance because just because there's a girl boss doesn't mean it's necessarily inherently bad or something. But the first episode edges into Mary Sue territory quite a number of times, so I'm a little like, but the animation is amazing. I'm not quite sure if it's. I'm pretty sure it's a combination of digital or hand art and digital, but it's a beautifully done show. Whatever else happens with the story and the characters, it's beautiful to look at.
Yeah, I really haven't been watching a whole lot. I've been watching actually older shows as usual. I don't really watch much new shows.
I'm getting ready to rewatch The Shield. I have the entire series The Shield on DVD, and I watch it every couple of years or so just because it's one of my favorite shows of all time, and it really reminds me like this is what good TV used to be. Oh man, it doesn't feel like that long ago.
It's hard to believe that with The Shield they managed to get so many episodes done in a season, and the show was still good. I will say that maybe instead of 7 seasons or whatever it was, it could have been like 5. It could have been, but I still enjoyed it. I think that it's such an early case of good television being made, and people don't often give it enough credit.
Yeah, the virtues of that show is that I am biased because I love it, but there was never an episode that felt like a filler episode. Everything mattered and everything had a payoff from the first episode to the last episode. It all worked, and the acting was amazing, the writing was amazing, the camaraderie between the characters was amazing. So it always felt like when I was watching an episode that this was necessary information to know how the characters were developing, what happened next, and I can't think of a single loose thread that they didn't in some way, shape, or form tie up, even if it took like 2 seasons. That was the kind of the cool thing, is like something that happened in like the 5th episode of season 2 would have a payoff in season 5. And if you'd been paying attention, you'd be seeing how it all fits together. And that was just an amazing feat of writing. But anyway, I could go on about The Shield forever.
It's a good show. I think that Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan, and that's like my favorite show of all time. He said that if he didn't watch shows like The Shield and The Sopranos and things like that, he wouldn't have had the kind of inspiration he needed to make Breaking Bad. And that says a lot about The Shield when he mentions shows like that.
Well, you can see the DNA from Homicide: Life on the Street up through The Wire, up through The Shield, because there's a lot of crossover in both actors and people behind the scenes. Right. And so there was this undercurrent of related tone and storytelling in a lot of those shows, and they shared a lot of the same people as they moved on. And I think that era kind of ended with The Shield, even though Sons of Anarchy was an outgrowth in similar ways from The Shield. But I don't think even Sons of Anarchy quite captured that same tone for a cop show. It really has come down to cop shows, and The Shield, I think, was probably the last great cop show. Maybe somebody else out there has an argument otherwise, but like an ensemble cast cop show, I don't know that they have those anymore, or do them very well.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole different tangent, a different branch of the multiverse. Pardon me, everybody.
No, it's fine. I mean, there used to be good shows. There aren't now. Like a lot of them. I mean, once in a while there's a decent one, but yeah, I think that a series like The Shield, they wouldn't make it today. There's a bunch of men doing manly things in it. Why would they make it?
Yeah, and the prejudices of the territory they're operating in is part and parcel with the plot, because they're trying to make it look like this is how the real world works, both in police in the police office and as on the street. So yeah, they'd have a hard time doing this, at least on network television or the major stuff. Maybe an HBO or Showtime might do it, but not like an FX.
I think everybody would be tiptoeing. That one,
yes,
that was still at a time when they could make a show and they don't care about anything. They're just they're making their show, and you can watch it or you could not watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching Rockford Files and Magnum PI lately.
There you go. Hey, the classics are for a reason. They still work.
Yeah,
they still work.
Otherwise, just movies. I'm more of a movie guy anyway. Once in a while, I'll throw in a TV show, or like I watch like some cartoons here and there, like Garfield or Looney Tunes or whatever.
Oh, if you haven't watched The Shield, Tom, I'm telling you, give it.
I know everybody keeps saying that's a show.
Wow,
I should
you've never watched.
It's on Hulu. I think the whole thing's on Hulu or something now. So yeah, just give it a couple episodes, man.
Totally worth watching. I mean, it's just.
Well, I can't wait for like I loved shows like last year. My big show I loved was Tulsa King, so I can't wait for the second season.
I still haven't seen that.
Yeah, I saw that one. That was good, and I'm waiting for the second season, hoping it'll be as good.
Yeah, me too. So yeah, that's one thing I'm definitely looking forward to, and of course Cobra Kai.
Totally.
So with that though, I think we're gonna wrap things up. I got homework to do from Andre, so I want to thank Scribbles and Price for being here. Subscribe. What you got going on? I'm sure you got some TED Talks or something coming up.
Well, yes, as always, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern is my series TED Excellence, where I take a look at off-brand TED Talks or TED Talks, depending on the subject, along with TEDx Bingo, as we try to learn something, or at least learn how a presentation before an audience should be constructed. And just recently, last week, I had my latest episode of my sort of pet project series called Living on Borrowed Crime, where I interview and talk to true crime content creators on YouTube primarily. And we had a pretty heavy set of subjects last week. I had a panel on featuring Matt Orchard, Dave's Lemonade, Misery Machine, and Mr. Black. And we talked about the objections to true crime as a genre. And each of them had something to say about effectively what their critics have to say about what they do. So that plus other interviews in that series is on my channel. I'm looking to get other interviews set up with other true crime content creators and even maybe some professional people in criminal justice. We'll see. But yeah, that's the big stuff. And I've got a whole library of other things on my channel, including movie and TV reviews that I don't do very often. But when I do, I usually have something to say. So there you go. There's my ad. Thank you.
All right. We have Tim Hayes, who's been a member for 33 months. That's almost 3 years. Thank you so much, Tim. We appreciate that. Always a huge supporter of the channel here. Always shares out links and that kind of stuff. I haven't hung out with you in a while. I'm going to have to figure out a way we can hang out soon. Oh, Sadie, she's just barking at me. Is it an invisible dragon or is it a cat? Probably an invisible
I'm hoping for dragon.
Probably an invisible dragon. We got Marks47, who's been a member for 39 months. That's over 3 years. Holy crap, Oli. Thank you so very much for that. And we have a Price here as well. What do you got coming up? You got your show tonight, or is that Thursday?
Yeah, no, it's tonight at 11:45 p.m. on my live stream channel. It's called The Night Owl, and I'm going to be.
I noticed you got quite a following on Rumble. I didn't realize that. I noticed you were live on there, and I flipped it on. I'm like, holy crap! Because I saw, you have a few people watching on the nighttime show, and I'm like always giving you shit because you never notice me. And that's why I'm bringing it up, because I'm like, oh, now I can see why, because you're probably a lot more than I realized watching you. I'm like, well, how is he not noticing me in the chat?
No, I don't know. I mean, I think some people.
I can see why is my point now. Yeah.
First of all, anytime I see you there, I'm always happy to see you. And like, I would also invite you on the stream, but I kind of feel bad because it's usually
anytime.
late at night, and I feel
if
like
I can't make it, I'll let you know. Like, just send me the link, and if I can, I'll definitely pop on.
Awesome. I totally would do that. I
didn't even know that you were on Rumble, man, and I ended up flipping it on one night, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes Rumble, first of all, I like the platform, and I guess some people have watched me over time there, and like it seems to be going okay. And yeah, I'm very, very happy anytime anybody watches. So
yeah, I just
I'll send you a link.
Like, why is he not noticing me? Like,
what?
It's like, what is he not noticing me for, jerk?
I notice you. I notice you every time. I just feel
I know you do. Eventually,
like,
somebody will say something, but like, I didn't realize that it was that busy on the other side there. I was just like, holy shit.
It changes. It's a lot. It's every day is different. So you never know how it'll turn out. But usually when I see you, I just feel bad because I know you streamed all day, and I'm like, oh, like you're probably just being nice now. And showing that you probably don't like you want to go.
Sometimes at that time of night, I've thought about firing up streams, but then I see like you're live or somebody else is live, and I just won't worry about it then. But yeah, no, like yeah, anytime, just send me the link. If I can't make it, I'll let you know.
All right, sounds good, man. Thank you.
So, all right. Well, other than that, thank you so much, guys, for being here. I don't think I missed anything else. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you later.
Bye.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this